Alright guys, hard way learnt here. We are going to hook up the Ferri boom mower to the Kubota L6060 today. See if we can get this thing up and running and do some brush cutting. I've got to set up the PTO shaft shield. The one that came on this was already broken, so I've got to do that. I've got half the shaft set aside there. I've got to figure out how to get the new one set up and sized, so let's get after it. Maybe just a pin will do it. Well, I released it. There we go. Interesting. This old shield definitely seems to interface with this PTO shaft and have a little gasket there, where the generic one that I've got does not have that feature. Lock and lube, what happened? Got to line that one up. So we'll get that in there. I think it's ready to run and do a function check on it. Just got to get the controls mounted, at least in a temporary way, so that they're safe, because you can't start a machine like this and not have the controls secured. You drop something, let go of it, bad stuff can happen. So I've got this kind of temporarily mounted up here. It's got a little bit of give because of those rubber spacers. I've got two more threaded holes up here, and I think I'm probably going to build another set of this in reverse and then tie it into this just to give it some more support. Basically I took two of those angle brackets and tied them together in an S, and I need to still be able to work my loader control, which this is kind of a pain now. So if I can scoot that over 3 or 4 inches, that's going to be a lot better, because this thing riding on my arm is going to get real old. I'll probably grab a piece of pipe insulation and put on there just to pad it, so I don't, if I bang into it or something, I'm not bruising myself all up. I've got it in here. Now I can run the unit safely because this is secured. Where I said, I don't want to run this unit with this controller flopping around in here, trying to manipulate this and have the thing going all wonky. There's certain aspect of running this I need to make sure that it doesn't tip the tractor over. It's a very heavy cutting implement, and it can go really high up, and that's a lot of tipping impulse. And I'm actually very concerned about that. This is the #1 concern with adding ballast to the tires, adding the wheel spacers, all these things that I've done on this project to date. I've got to make sure that everything is safe. I may end up needing more counterbalance on the left side of the tractor, like a wheel weight or several wheel weights or something to counterbalance this, because even the wheels with ballast, they're only so far out, and with this having a long torque moment on it, the ability to lift something close to the axis centrally of the tractor, because think about torque and the way that that's going to work. If the weight was centered in the tractor, the tipping impulse really doesn't have to lift that centered weight in order to tip the tractor over. The further to the left the weight is, that right side tipping moment has to lift it. So you get a counterbalance effect only there. If it's at the center axis of the tractor or close to it, you get a lot less effect. So I may hang some kind of weight. I may have to fabricate something to hang a weight to the left, but that remains to be seen. And I'm going to have to do this very carefully as we kind of sort out how tippy this thing is. All right, so new day. I had to knock it off yesterday and do some appointments. So back at it today. I've got my, this may confuse some of you guys, okay? I've got my tractor tied. This is a very new implement to me. It's not new in terms of its life, but it's new to me. And I'm not sure that my tractor can handle the tipping impulse from this. So what I'm doing is I tied the tractor back on the left side. I've got ratchet strap tied to my John Deere over there, brakes are set. My thought with doing that is I wanted some slack in that line so that if I exceed the tipping impulse on the Kubota, that I can tell. If I tied it down and didn't give it any slack, the potential would be that I reach the tipping impulse, but the tractor doesn't move and I have no idea. So my thought with this is give it just enough slack. I've got like a foot of slack in there. So if it starts to go over, it stops it from falling over on its side, but it doesn't stop it from starting. That's a good way to say that. Now, what I found when I manipulated the arm out here on the Ferri boom mower, was actually very stable yesterday. I got it out to this point. I kept it right kind of at the ground level so that if it did start to tip, the arm itself is a hydraulically actuated arm. It's going to be able to push me back level and get me back on the tires if that were to happen. What I'm concerned about is kind of like the tractor tipping over in this direction toward the front tire. And so that's where the tie is actually up on the loader stanchion, or I don't know what you call that part. The part the loader attaches to right there. I'm actually really pleased with how this works. I didn't start the actual cutting blade on the Ferri mower yesterday. I was just manipulating the arm. I'll get to that today, and we'll start it up and make sure that's all working. I presume it's going to be working, even though I haven't ever started this up. When I did things like check the fluid, there's literally no leaks. Everything's bone dry as far as like all the hydraulic fittings, so that was a really good sign to me. When I pulled the filter yesterday, that fluid was absolutely at the top of the tank, which was interesting. There's a sight glass on there that I couldn't tell what the level was because, as it turns out, the hydraulic oil level is completely maxed, so it's not going to show up as a line in the sight glass because it's completely full. And the fluid looked literally brand new. The filter element looked brand new. There is a breather filter on there, the little tiny guy, that I'm going to need to take in somewhere and see if they can match it. I've looked all through the documentation for the Ferri and I cannot find a part number for that. So I'll have to go see if a regular old auto parts store can figure out kind of what kind of breather filter that is. It's like the size of a 50-cent piece in diameter, something like that, and about would that be 2 inches in height, maybe 1.5 inches in height. I'll measure it, of course, but something along those lines. And it's a metal screen with a paper element inside of it, just as a breather filter. And that one looks terrible. It's like all rusty. That little mesh around it's all rusty and full of gunk. So definitely that one will get replaced. But I've been very happy with my my effort so far on this. I did build out this bracket, and this is probably not the permanent arrangement of how I'm going to do this. I'd really like to be able to quickly release this off of here and get it out of the tractor so I can switch implements, because these pull cable type controls are not quick detach. Like, you can't just pull this off and feed it out through a grommet. Right now, this is closed in the back window, and it's a little too tight to actually open and close that latch. So it's against the gasket. There's a little air gap there, and I think that's acceptable for this testing phase. I'd like to figure something out where I can permanently alter that back end of the tractor with some kind of a grommet where this can pass through, but when I detach the whole control unit, I can pass it out of the tractor through an opening. That's going to take some body work essentially on this cab. I don't love the position of this when I'm sitting here and I'm working the loader. When I'm working the loader, this is interfering with my arm. This is also very sharp. This is like ridiculously sharp, this part here. And so I'm very concerned with, you know, cutting myself on that. So I want to maybe rearrange this and scoot it over a little bit. Would be nice to move it to my right, closer to the wall. This is just gate bracing pieces that I had from Tractor Supply, and it's worked. It's quite sturdy. There's rubber spacers against the frame of the tractor where I put these 8mm screws in, and it seems to be working. So it gives me access to my light bar controls that are back behind there. So I'm happy enough with it to give it a try. It's definitely sturdy, and it's sturdy enough that there's not a safety issue with the controls flopping around in here while I've got that arm out. Because if that starts to maneuver the tractor a little bit and I have to be holding this manually, that's a major safety issue to me. So it's safe enough to continue testing and kind of working on this. And so I've got a camera set up outside, and we'll be giving this thing a little bit more testing. I'm going to test kind of the limits of how far this will reach out to the side, but I'm going to test kind of that up and down range a little bit, and I'm going to start the motor. I've been warming up the tractor during this monologue I've been doing, because I'm going to be running this Ferri runs off the PTO. Of course, it does not run off the tractor's internal hydraulic system. All the hydraulics on that system are powered by turning the PTO. And so warming up the tractor before I start the PTO. I also am keeping an eye on the shield that I put on the PTO yesterday. The shield that came with this Ferri is kind of a custom deal for the shaft. The shaft itself kind of has a little track or race that latches into the shield and kind of keeps it all oriented and looking nice, and then it's chained up, of course. But that one was shredded on one end. So I've taken it off, and I got kind of a generic PTO shield at Tractor Supply. Ridiculously expensive, by the way, for a chunk of plastic. You know, I think approaching $150 for the PTO shield. And it kind of like bangs around on it a little bit. I chained it to part of the, one of the stabilizer arms, the top link, I think. And because of the up and down action of moving the mower up and down, it kind of over tightened and bent the little chain link that was holding it. So I removed that and kind of tightened that back up. But I'm not really happy with the movement of the PTO shield, just because it's not made for this shaft, and so it's kind of banging around. I think it's safe enough, especially since nobody's back there, especially me. I'm not going to be anywhere near that PTO while it's running. And nobody else is allowed to be back or even out here while I'm working on this. The grease fittings on the mower were also kind of, some of them were pretty dry, and one of them snapped off in the lock and lube grease gun tip, and I couldn't figure out why my grease gun was just not pumping while that lock and lube was hanging on to the little ball from the grease fitting, and I had to figure that out. I had to kind of backtrack because it had like shoved down into the lock and lube tip and was plugging it up. So I pulled out a metric grease fitting and replaced it, got rid of that broken tip and greased it. Also greased the drum and all the different parts that are hard to access when it's in the retracted position, because some of those grease fittings, they're like 90-degree fittings, and when you close the arm all the way to its retracted position, they're really tucked in there, and it was difficult to access them. So extending it out and setting it down gave me the ability to really grease everything and make sure everything is in good working order. And like I said, I'm super happy with all of that. Yesterday when I started doing this, I had my helmet on, my arborist type helmet with the face shield and everything. Probably wouldn't be a terrible idea to have it on today, but I'm not sure where I placed it. I think I carried it in the house. So I don't have it on me. It was a little silly, but at the same time, if something goes horribly wrong and the drum explodes on this, or it was a tip over and shattered glass in the tractor, I think that was a pretty good deal. And maybe when I'm out running it actually mowing, which I'm not going to be mowing anything right now, I will for a while at least, or if I'm in interesting terrain, I will probably wear a helmet. I was actually pleasantly surprised with how quiet everything was while the PTO was at least powering the mower. Really no increase in noise. I've got my earbuds in because I was listening to something a second ago and taking phone calls and all that, but I've got earmuffs here if it was noticeably loud, but I don't really feel like that's even necessary. I need another chain on that shield. Go ahead and stop the PTO. Go see if I have a chain. Shut the tractor down. I don't know if I captured that. I don't know if I captured that on the other camera or not, but I wasn't happy with how much it was banging around. Let's take a look here. Yeah, so it's got enough slack. It's a full wrap, and this was spinning around and banging into stuff. So there's a little hook there. Shorter chains and attaching it to those hooks might be the better option. So I'll go see if I have some chain. I found a piece of chain. I don't really have a clip for it, so I got to figure that out still. But I wasn't really happy with this banging effect I was getting. So my thought here is that is probably a better spot for the shield to attach, right on the shield to shield there. And there's another one here on this plastic shield. And if we can get those attached, it'll bang around a lot less. We're going to fire this up again. It should still be warm, and we'll go again. I left the ripples up. It's doing much better. That is running right now, and it's just got the tiniest little bit of vibration to it. No problem. So I'm going to bring the head of the cutter up, and we're going to test the extents of tip factor. Still tied back. Response from the up direction on the control. That's interesting. Okay, when I come down back on this, that is the up direction. I was apparently pushing downward. And that kind of makes sense. I was just reading the controls backwards. That's awesome. Okay. So I'm feeling the wobble of the tractor as I do this, trying to go slow, but I want to feel, does it start to tip me? Alright, we're going to come in on the cutter. seems to actually control both. When I move this down, it's like it's dragging in the grass. That's awesome. Got a big swipe in the grass. Like I said, I got to experiment and get to know this machine because it's challenging. It's a little muddy out there, so it just swiped the big muddy stripe in the grass. Axis is maxed. So it doesn't quite go straight. It's going to take a little getting used to the controls in terms of like how to feather it and kind of make it smooth and get it to float. There is a float setting here, but jumps when you try to approach that little D10. So I don't know what the option is there. All right, I think I'm ready to fire up the cutting head. PTO RPMs 460. Right at 459, 460. I'm going to raise the cutting head up a little bit off the ground here. Okay. Malfunction on this whole unit. I open the valve for the drum, and the drum doesn't spin. So that's a big deal, because that's the whole point of this thing actually working. That's in the stop position, but there doesn't seem to be any go. There, but it doesn't want to.
Well, that's a big problem when stuff doesn't work. Come back for our next installment and you'll see the fix for this hydraulic control, and we'll get this thing up and running.